was raped and murdered in Maryland. 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungaray was savagely killed in Texas. All three brutally murdered by illegal immigrants, authorities say. All three gone because Joe Biden allowed criminals into our midst. The horrors won't stop until we remove Joe Biden from office. Defend US PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. It should have been stopped. That's neglect of duty.
Everybody's for Trump, huh?
As a sheriff. I have no desire to work with somebody who divides. That's not what America is. I'll work with anybody who unites. That's why I'm with President Joe Biden.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
How is it, Dan? Which one do you like? You know what you're eating?
You were made to find inner peace. We were made to track flight prices to paradise. You know what's brilliant? Boring. Think about it. Boring is the unsung catalyst for bold.
What straps gold into a rocket and hurtles it into space? Boring does.
Boring makes vacations happen.
Early retirement's possible.
And startups start up.
Because it's smart, dependable, and steady.
Cauliflower.
All words you want from your bank. For nearly 160
Spicy
years,
cauliflower.
PNC Bank has been
You like it?
completely boring, so you can be happy
Huh?
and fulfilled.
What else is on
Which
it?
is pretty unboring if you think about it.
Introducing Ned's Black Psoriasis. He thinks his flaky red patches are all people see.
Otezla is the #1 prescribed pill to treat plaque psoriasis. Otezla can help you get clear skin. Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Serious allergic reactions can happen. Otezla may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Some people taking Otezla had depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur.
Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla.
You want thicker, stronger, fuller hair? You need expert skincare. New Dove Scalp Plus Hair Therapy Serum. Active skincare ingredients. Targets the source of beautiful hair, your scalp. For visibly thicker, stronger, fuller hair.
I'm so excited. I'm finally here. This is...
New breaking, we take it. Trade in any phone, any condition, and get a new iPhone 15 with tons of storage on us. Only on Verizon.
Lowe's knows July 4th projects come with
Wow,
questions.
Lowe.
Answers.
Like how to keep your yard looking lush.
You like
And
it?
which paint color matches your bold style. So hurry in. 4th of July deals at
So you think
Lowe's.
they're no good?
You got this, and we got you.
Celebrate the 4th in America. Next Thursday at 7 Eastern on CNN.
You didn't like it, Dad?
No.
What happened?
Yeah.
He didn't like it, Dad.
Which one? He said he liked the cauliflower.
Now he's looking at me and making faces.
Welcome back to the CNN presidential debate live from Georgia. Let's talk about persistent challenges you both faced in your first terms and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and black Americans are in prison at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
You acknowledge you made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is, there are more small black businesses that have been started at any time in history. Number two, the wages of black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporate operations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that black families have to make relative to child care is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs provide that child care protections, you increase the economic growth because more people could be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up and they know.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame you for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting you badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any black family, first-time home buyer, should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure they're in a situation where all those black families and those black individuals who provided that if they got student loans, that would balloon, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, anything having to do with volunteers, if they paid their bills for 10 years, their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do was leave it alone. He destroyed it with this Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. And sure, as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 50% unemployment. He decimated the economy. That's when he decimated the economy. That's why there's no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. He provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who were in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they had health insurance. We have covered, the ACA has increased. I made sure that the $8,000 per person or family can get written off for health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And we're going to try again if they win. We find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the costs. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on. But inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance and way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent challenge is the climate crisis. 2023 was the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Let me just go back to what he said about the police, how close the police are there. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. In the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them, and they've taken great offense at it, and now they see it happening. But when they see what I did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts.
You haven't even remember what happened.
Opportunity zones, and the biggest beneficiary are blacks, and that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They say ever. I read this morning where ever the best numbers.
Market's probably going to go up
He's
more.
lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people.
Can't do anything
He's
about
also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But when you see these millions of people pouring into our country and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet, it's a disaster.
You 38 seconds left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
I don't know where the hell he's been. The idea, thing that he said is true. I've passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $50 billion for HBC, this historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and all that. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student could do. He doesn't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, he didn't do a damn thing with the environment. He out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord, I immediately joined it. Because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change. And he didn't do a damn thing about it. He wants to undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treated us horribly. We were the only ones. It was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard
Which one do you want?
insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors.
Cauliflower?
I took care
Small
of the
one.
seniors.
No.
What he's doing is destroying all of our medical
Garlic
programs
stick?
because
No.
the migrants
What?
coming in.
Yeah,
They
garlic.
want everybody. And look, I have
See
the
that?
biggest heart on the stage, I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people. But we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Social Security, me.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones with consequence. We're not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able. The United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world. Number one, we're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress, and we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps. There's thousands of young people learning how to deal with that, just like Peace Corps. And we're moving in a direction that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned
You want
about
cauliflower?
pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time of the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're gonna, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent, but the biggest thing I'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare, both times. And and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And the ACA, as I said, we're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they in fact are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, we're in a situation where I talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 towards the tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. And everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it. Because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security, they're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid, they're putting them in our hospitals, they're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden?
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he said he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one who's acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, everybody talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession and inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted to him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
I just feel that the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, Drain the Swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy's a
You not anymore?
He never fired.
You didn't like it?
He should have fired.
Which one?
That was involved with that.
Which one did you like?
Afghanistan
I don't know.
horror show.
Good job.
The most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border? That's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people? Many from prisons, many from mental institutions. Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He's the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore.
For the United States of America, there's nothing beyond their capacity. They're the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody, number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't know the exact number, presidential historians. They've had meetings and they voted who was the worst president in American history. One from best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. You can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care. He did virtually nothing in child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men, or single parents, to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do to make child care more affordable. You want to take the minute?
Just so you understand, we have Poland, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you, and they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life I grow up and I see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Well, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the tariff, he will increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I never raised the taxes on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. This tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming into the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in the food and all the things that we're importing. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he somehow helped the middle class. The middle class has been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you have made a top priority in your first term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up, we now have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. So I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. You notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I impose here in China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries, and there was more to come. But he hasn't done that. but he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well in addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog. It's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low, because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad. But the number of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever had by far.
President Trump, thank you. President Biden?
Fentanyl and byproduct fentanyl went down for a while. And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl. These big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all over the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues and said, don't do it. It's going to hurt Republicans. But he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. We're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl, and Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans in the throes of addiction right now struggling to get the treatment they need.
Well, because this does pertain to it. He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage. We always pay $6 billion for every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter. I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said, literally, as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I've got 58 people out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dan?
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into your 80s?
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think you just look at the record, look at what I've done. I turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people, the whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 3% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call them, to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I've never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, we sent love letters to, and Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. Former President Trump, to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions, he couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same.
Yeah.
But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace them.
Thank you. President Biden?
You can see he is 6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
Yes, it was a 6 handicap of all.
I was an 8 handicap. 8. But I had,
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay,
Let's not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
Let's not act like children.
a specific concern that voters have about you. Will you pledge tonight that once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's totally unacceptable. And if you would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden, you would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made, in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to, and I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. The only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him, they don't fear him, They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III, let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want at NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is an attack on all, a required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done, what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful peace. Because of the people, not me, it's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because of our own safety as a state. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. Not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. And now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started, ever, with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this with... He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked.
President Trump, the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins, yes or no, please?
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week. Or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else, in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up by numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued your appeal to the courts all across the country. Not one single court in America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local. None. You continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There's no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt we're going to accept it because you're such a whiner. Now, if you lose again, you accept it.
Whiner.
You can't stand
You're a
loss.
whiner.
It's not
We'll be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate live.
Why don't you give some comments?
Yes. You got to see how these grown-up two men talking at each other. One says he's a whiner and one says he's a old dog, not doing anything, ruining the country. He says if the country was running well, Trump would have been on some golf course somewhere else, He doesn't want to run, so he can go and enjoy. There are more people who can run the country, right?
It gave me new hope. Talk to your cardiologist today. Visit hcmrealtalk.com to learn more.
I think if somebody wants something bad,
figure it out.
Hallmark Movies now knows what you want. Catch your favorite Hallmark stars.
Oh, wow. That's good, right? Really good.
It feels good rom-coms.
3 girlfriends celebrating sisterhood.
I want to be in this place for as long as possible.
Cozy mysteries. And original series.
I'll sit here for these.
Now streaming on Hallmark Movies Now.
Right now, we are Social Paint Brand at an everyday low price. Starting at $29.98. Tonight, in your spacious La Quinta suite, your eyes could use a break after a long day of seeing things. But hey, free waffles always make you forget. Because at La Quinta, we work as hard as you do. So then
Nice.
tonight,
This,
you can be
I think this is the first time they are doing the debate like
we
this
get it, you've been building
in the
connections
country,
all
right?
day. Go ahead.
I've never seen two presidential debate like this.